Hey everybody, it's Stacie Duffy here, your Denver Metro real estate resource, and I've been doing a lot of research, looking at lots of graphs, hearing from some professional economic forecasters, and yeah, so I nerd out on this stuff, but I realize a lot of people probably don't. I'll list a lot of my sources down below, and I'm also probably going to refer a lot to my real estate housing market video that I'll shoot and post a similar time as well. That's more national focus, so if you're not looking for the Denver or Colorado market, definitely check that out. I'll put a link up here and then down below. But for my local peeps here in Colorado and Denver, here's kind of what the data is looking like and then some takeaways. So I made some notes, guys. I'm sorry, because it's all over the place. I look at a million graphs. I get really excited about it, but I realize a lot of people don't. So I want to boil it down for y'all. Essentially, so what everyone's been hearing on the news is, oh my gosh, the market's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. You know, you can make money hand over fist on your house. Mostly true, right? That's been pretty obvious for a lot of different things. There's always the sky is falling, when's it gonna crash? I've been getting questions about that since my very first market update video that I will post up here and down below as well. That I filmed, I wanna say, gosh, 2017, maybe 2018. I think it was 2017. About, hey, here's where we're at. I don't see it happening anytime soon, but my crystal ball has been in the shop. So, but yeah, hasn't happened since then yet. We're now into 2021 and tail end of a worldwide pandemic. So there's always that question of, okay, when's the market going to correct? When's it going to crash? What's going to happen? Obviously, no one knows hey, here's exactly when it's going to happen. There's a lot of clickbait videos out there that say, oh, it's going to happen. Fine, whatever. I just like to look at the data and give you my perspective on that. So, and I'll quote a lot of these numbers. I'll put the sources down below, as I mentioned. I'm probably not going to put the numbers in the video, guys, because y'all know me. I'd rather get you the information than spend a week trying to edit the video among my other business. And so if you want to look them up, cool, they're down below. Essentially, for the next year or so, I think we're probably going to continue similar trends, just not as crazy. I think we've gotten some of our seasonal market, fall seasonal market adjustment back, at least a little bit here in the Denver metro. So as far as that goes, normally our active listings, let me go up to this one. Normally our number of sales kind of top out in September of the year. I mean, they're always going to be higher midsummer, and a lot of people think, oh, June, July, that's when houses sell for the most money for sale to list price ratio. Yes, that's true, but those are houses listed in April, May, typically. Because you have to remember we're 30, 45, 60 days behind as far as the closing timeline. So, but generally, most of that activity is going to happen for properties listed from February into about June, July, typically in June even. And we start to taper off. Last year in 2020 with COVID, totally not normal for a lot of different reasons, but the seasonality of our market was completely thrown off with the spring being interrupted, lockdowns and everything else. So, and as far as, buyer spending patterns and money available, since they're not commuting to work, since they're not traveling and going on vacation, since they're not, going shopping and doing all these things, there's a whole lot of changes in the national buying patterns and spending behaviors that I'll talk about more in the national video. But, because of that, 2020 was not normal. So we didn't really have our typical seasonal markets that we would expect to see. But so far, 2021, we're getting a little bit of seasonality back, which makes sense, right? We're getting back to normal a little bit. People, a lot of people are going back to work or have found a new normal as far as commuting goes. And so we're getting some of that back. So I would expect our sales for the year, as far as the number of sales per month, to taper off for the next couple of months as well, like our normal seasonal market would. So that's good. Typically that taper as far as the sale price to the list price drops roughly 0.75% to 1% from now until the end of the year. So our sell to list price ratio here in the Denver metro market, starting in, I believe it was March. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers exactly on that. I'm already off of that graph, guys. Sorry, I look at a million graphs. So I think starting in February or in March, it was at 100.9%, so almost 101% sale to list price in March. But keep in mind that's February listed properties. So it started picking up then. We've been over 100%. So on average, our Denver houses have been getting full list price or more. That's not the case for every area, for every house. That's just average market condition. And we went up to, it looks like 103%, a little over 103% sale to list price in June. So the May listed properties, pretty normal for our seasonal. And then it started to taper off for July closings, and then August closings is back down to about what March would be. So normal seasonal, our summer carried a little later than normal. Normally it would start tapering a little bit sooner, and we're carrying that buyer demand a little later for a lot of different reasons. But I expect that to kind of continue to trend a little bit. Maybe, sale to list price ending up 0.5% to 1% less by the end of the year. So over the next few months, that's pretty seasonal. So what that means for my buyers, and what I always tell my buyers is, guys, Q3, Q4, great time to go pick up houses because you don't have as much competition. Now I'll get to the inventory piece, which is a nightmare all around, but generally the fact that I'm seeing some of that seasonality in, how much over the list price houses are selling for, we're getting some of that back. That should help a little bit as far as not having to offer your firstborn, maybe just your secondborn kid instead. So I like that. I like seeing some repeat of patterns, seeing some seasonality, and having some understanding of, hey, here's probably what's going to happen based on historical data, right? So that's the good stuff. As far as inventory, because that's really the other big question right now for Denver market. So, or inventory and rates are going to be national, not Denver specific. So I'll talk that more in the national video too. Inventory is our issue and has been our issue for a long time. So active listings for August was less than half of what it was in August 2019. Less than half. A little over 13,000 for August of this year, and a little over 30,000 for August of 2019, and a little over 25,000 for August of 2018. So in COVID, 2020, I'm not even going to look at because that's just off the charts and not really referable from a pattern perspective. So inventory is still our issue. So a lot of people are saying, inflation and people can't afford things. And yes, a lot of that's true. I talked to that in the national. I don't know why I keep pointing up here. I'll put the link down, and I'm only going to put a couple cards in. So yes, a lot of that is true. And everyone says, well, the market's going to crash. I get it, guys. But there's some major, supply and demand, right? Currently, we have an unbelievable amount of demand and we don't have the supply. So for something to really cause a major market shift, there's got to be an increase in the supply or a significant decrease in the demand. Well, population growth, and as far as net population net population data between Colorado, population were a little bit down for net growth for the year, a little over 1% from some of the moving companies looking at Atlas Van Lines and North American Moving and that kind of stuff. So we're, not as many people moved, but we also had COVID and some other stuff going on. But still, we're still a net population growth, which means people need a place to live. So until our inventory situation has a major shift, or our demand for some reason has a major shift, so rates going through the roof or something else, I'm not sure how that can significantly cause a crash. Like, houses aren't going to magically pop up out of anywhere. We just had a worldwide pandemic that, if that would have changed, the number of people alive, which it did, but not enough to impact our housing situation. So until something changes there, we're still going to have an inventory problem. We're still going to need more houses. We don't have enough new houses being built. Denver and Colorado specifically is still feeling the repercussions of construction defect laws. So we don't have a lot of dense housing and first-time buyer condos and things like that. The affordability on the building piece because of labor shortages, inventory, and everything else I mentioned in the national. It means that they can't build houses for an affordable amount, and they can't build them fast enough even to meet the demand that we have. There's 3-month plus waiting list to buy a piece of dirt for a builder to build something on in a year. Like, it's nuts, guys. So until something changes there, I don't see the major, 2008, oh my gosh, there's 1 million people that are underwater, right? Like, I don't see how that can happen. So inventory is our big issue. So what that means for people thinking of selling and moving out of state, guys, you got some good options. Take your money and run. I love it here. I'm not leaving. So if you can move up to a different buyer bracket, yeah, you're going to spend a lot of money. So a lot of people are choosing to stay and renovate, which is also hurting that inventory situation. But as far as the answering the question of, oh, what about the forbearance and all these people that are unemployed and everything else? Even if, so right now, and this is, who is this from? This was CoreLogic study from April of 2021, so end of Q2 of this year, I guess. As far as a home equity study there, so I'll link to that data source down below. So for Colorado, the average home equity increase year over year at the end of Q2, so about mid-year this year versus mid-year last year, average equity increase for most Colorado homeowners was $77,000 on their house, versus a roughly $51,000 year-over-year increase for the U.S. So Colorado is still getting a more equity appreciation dollar per dollar than the U.S., right? Which makes sense. Our cost of living is higher and everything else, and people like living here. As far as the forbearance piece, so according to that same CoreLogic study, as far as the home equity status of a lot of homeowners, roughly, 2.3% of homeowners in the U.S. are underwater, negative equity situation. They owe more on their house than they actually have value on the property, right? Very, very low percent. And that actually went down a significant amount year over year as well. So that's 2.3% in the U.S. Denver is 1.2%. So that is a tiny number of people that are in a negative equity situation. And even if all of those people went into forbearance, or those that are in forbearance, and all of those came on the market, it's not enough to make a dent in our supply situation, our inventory situation. So it might help correct our market slightly, just as far as giving a little bit more for people to buy. But nationally, and I'll mention this in the other video, national bankruptcies are lower for both companies and personal, are lower than they've been, lower than they were in 2006, and lower since they've been lowest number since I think 2000 or before. I'd have to check that data set. That's from Calculated Risk blog. I'll put that source down below as well. So bankruptcies are down. People are getting their jobs back, and if they lost them, the forbearance situations wouldn't make a dent in our supply issues. And so few homeowners are underwater, they're gaining equity, and people are still moving here. The whole thing boils down to, you guys, I don't see a million houses popping up out of the ground magically in the next couple of years, given the population situation and how the largest population segment, age population segment in the US right now is millennials, is the early to mid 30s. So all of these people that are in that first time homebuyer stage, and there's nothing out there. So the issue is we hit an affordability problem, right? And when we get to that affordability issue, and that's kind of where we're at, is our inventory's been so low and the rates have been so low that people have just been, like push up the price, because when the rates are lower, you can buy more for your monthly payment. But at some point, the price gets so high that it doesn't matter how low the rates are, you still can't borrow that much money every month, or it's more than you can afford every month. And that's where we're getting to, if we're not already at. So I think that's taking out a good chunk of our buyer demand, and going to continue to do that, especially once the rates start going up, probably in a year and a half or so, maybe a little bit less. So it's still not going to make up for all the houses that people need that they don't have. But the affordability will taper our crazy rapid appreciation that we've had of 12, 15, 18, 24. I've seen as much as like 24% a month in some parts of town in Denver, or not month, 24% a year. So 1.5 to 2% a month appreciation. That's nuts, guys. That's just, excuse my language, batshit crazy. Like, that's not sustainable. People can't afford it. So that's what we're running into. And I think that appreciation annually will taper off a little bit to a more reasonable number. Still, 5, 6, 7, 8%, just because of affordability. So anyway, what does all that boil down to? Well, I'll tell you what my plan is. So I still think fall is a great time to pick up a house. I always have. COVID last year was the anomaly on that. It was just crazy. So, but generally, I think we're going to enter that fall, winter, early winter seasonal market. Holidays, people are going to start to feel comfortable gathering. They're going to travel a little bit more. They're going to itch to do those types of things that we haven't done for so long, that it'll take a little bit of focus off of, hey, I want to move and buy a house right now. Because people have just written it off as like, oh, I could never do it, never afford it, whatever. So if you've been in the market, I think now is probably going to be your best opportunity for a while. So coming into next year, I think we'll have a little bit of seasonal pickup, but we're not going to have this prices just skyrocket, because it's already past the point that people can't afford it. Because the prices are going up, but the wages are not keeping up with the, rapid appreciation of prices. So that's going to top out, or at least has to level off a little bit. So I think that'll take some of the buyers out of the market in the spring. I'm still worried about our inventory, guys. I don't know where these houses are going to come from. It's going to be nuts. So my plan is to try to pick up a rental. I've got one rental right now. I'd like to pick up another rental sometime this fall. Yes, prices are high. Do I want to sit on my cash and wait for, who knows when, for a market correction? I plan to buy and hold. I'm not doing fix and flips. So I figure it's a long-term play anyway. That's my plan, because I want to get something before the rates pick up. And then indication from a housing supply perspective says people are going to need a place to live, so I should be able to rent it. So that's kind of my plan. And we'll see how that goes. I'm kind of picky, and I have a very risk-averse spouse, so I always have to balance that as well. But that's my thought. Like, if you're looking to sell, the inventory is still crazy low. Is it the super hot seasonal, everybody's out shopping? No, typically February, March is going to be a better swing for that. But I do worry a little bit about the affordability getting so high that it's going to take the buyers out of the market. But with the low inventory, you're still getting multiple offers. They're still really, really strong. According to our sell to list price ratio for Denver, they're still on average over list price. So what's happening right now is you're not getting a lot of the fluff, to be honest. You're not getting a lot of the people that are wanting to buy a house but really can't compete. And that happens a lot more in the spring market too. So anyway, whole lot of info, a lot of me rambling and jumping all over the place, and y'all know me by now. So, but I just kind of wanted to give you my perspective on the Denver market. If I haven't already uploaded the national video, I'll shoot and upload that shortly, but that's going to have a lot more info in it, guys. So if I don't get it up here today, I'm sorry. I'll try to get it up ASAP. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free, reach out, leave your comments down below. For those that are data nerdy, love this stuff, other realtors, I don't know how many other realtors watch this stuff, or I know there's always going to be the market skeptics and, hey, stuff's going to crash tomorrow, whatever. That's cool too. I'm curious where everybody's at with this, and I just like to look at the data and see where that's leading me. So, and patterns. It's all about patterns. And now that I'm glad we're getting back to some patterns. So if you're looking to buy or sell here in the Denver metro area, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on my website, link down below. Be happy to help, and y'all have a good one. Thanks so much.